Hello, everyone. The article I read was Can High School Educators Bridge the Gap? Message construction is a process of anticipatory socialization for marginalized students' transition to higher education, written by Alexandra N. Sousa. My first crucial takeaway from this article is that teacher messaging matters and actually can have a very substantial impact on students' decision making. The article looks at this in the context of high school students' post secondary plans and the impact of teacher messaging on high school students, specifically on their decisions around college, whether or not to go to college, what colleges to go to, and like how to apply to college, what scholarships to apply for, and things like that. And what is notable is that the messaging that high schoolers get from their teachers about college can have a pretty significant impact on their decisions surrounding college, especially for potential first generation college students or students who'd be the first in their families to go to college. And this is primarily because more often than not, their teachers are the adults they have the closest interpersonal relationships with that have gone to college. And as a result, the messaging their teachers send to them on things like, again, going to college, what college is like, how to apply for college, how to pay for college, things like that, that tends to have a pretty significant influence on these students because they generally don't have other adults in their lives that they trust that can give them that information. So to me, this really highlights the importance of teachers as role models as well. My second big takeaway is that teacher messaging about college, or our high school teacher messaging about college, often ignores addressing or considering race as a substantial factor that plays into a student's decision about going to college, or a factor that could substantially influence the admissions process for students applying to college, or could influence what colleges a student would go to. And the primary reason for this is because high school teachers generally don't really seem to view race as a strong factor that could impact those types of decisions. They generally weight socioeconomic status as the primary factor that could influence things like, or that could influence students' decision making around going to college. And to the point where they ignore intersectionality and kind of assume that socioeconomic status acts as an equalizing factor for their students. As a result of this, a lot of messaging that racially marginalized high schoolers get from their teachers about college is ineffective and does not really give them an accurate idea of what their college experience would be like, or how they might need to go about navigating the application and admissions process, because their teachers are not addressing one of the most important or influential factors that could impact what their college experience would be like. And my last critical factor that I found in this article is kind of the author's recommendation about how to deal with ineffective messaging for racially marginalized students about college. And that's that teachers need to be aware of and consider how intersectionality could result in their students having different experiences. And they need to show that they're considering this and show that intersectionality is a factor in their messaging to their students. If that's not incorporated into their messaging, then their messaging by and large will probably be ineffective for their racially marginalized students. Okay. So question two about how these crucial concepts relate to McCall and Skirdick and the Kaufman article. So this article shows a different side of intersectionality in high school, whereas looking at intersectionality is applied to something other than special education, but showing how even though this is something else, the college admissions process as opposed to special education, the results are still not positive. Because intersectionality is not really considered or addressed as a factor in school messaging around college or school preparation for college, kind of similar to how it's not really addressed when it comes to disproportionality in special education. A lot of racially marginalized students wind up being unprepared by their schools for a college experience. Their schools don't adequately prepare them how to apply to college, how to look for college, how or what their college experience might be like. And something that could potentially tie into the disproportionality of racially marginalized students in special education. If the special education label is applied to them, they're probably less likely to be placed in more advanced classes that would better prepare them for college. So that's another way that institutional neglect of intersectionality is not really is preventing schools from adequately meeting the needs of racially marginalized students. Moving on to question 3, how do we reconcile individual needs of learners with larger systems and institutions of education? For me, it means that institutions really need to view students as individuals and be aware of their different backgrounds, their different experiences, and frankly, their different needs. And understand that their students are coming from different places, have different goals, and as a result, the standardized experience is not going to work for everybody. It is not going to adequately meet the needs of everybody. So kind of going along with that, I guess, on a more practical level of how to get to that point would be that there needs to be less standardization of experience in institutions. And institutions really need to work on trying to address a more diverse array of student needs. And then the last question, what is one question or concern I have about schooling, about how schooling is designed and operated? And kind of looking at that we've worked with so far, but also with my own experience, just a lot of thoughts I've heard from students, parents, colleagues. Going into our look at the school system, my main question is what do administrators and the government regulators think the purpose of education is? And I think this question is important, or I'm interested in the answer to this question, because I think it will help clarify a lot about why the American school system is set up the way it is, why it has a lot of the institutional characteristics it does, if we understand the goals of the people in charge. And I think that could also potentially better illustrate how to address some of the issues, some of the institutional flaws in American education. Well, I think that covers everything. Thanks for listening.